So one of those things that was implicit in Rita's talk just then was that this idea of recovery. And we know that experts have been planning for recovery from the early days. For example, when I interviewed Bruce Aylward, who led the WHO's team to Wuhan and wrote the report on the 24th of February, warning the entire world about what was to come, he told me it's never, ever too early to think about recovery. In any crisis, you will find the pros who've done this before. They go into it thinking about how they're going to come out of it, because it will often affect how you measure it and what you do in real time. But of course, leading during these times is not easy. So to take us through some ideas about how to lead through times that are volatile, complex, ambiguous, and uncertain, I'm really pleased now to be joined by Rene Carayol. He's a leadership coach, a visiting professor at the Cass Business School in London, and a best-selling author. So Rene, just give us some personal perspective, first of all. How have you dealt with this crisis in terms of your own thoughts about leadership?
Look, I've been privileged enough to watch the whole show today. And all the different subject matters we've had from all the great speakers, there's been one thread, golden thread all the way through, and that's leadership. You can't escape it. It's always a question of leadership. And it's quite fascinating as I sit here sort of working from home and not in my office. Just had some feedback from my son is, when are you going to start leaving early and coming back late again? The sooner the better. There's some lovely feedback to get me going. But the bit I wanted to touch on first was, there's this great myth that we got to break in Western developed societies, and I've seen it growing right around the world. The leaders are only at the top of the organization. It's a huge myth. It's managers that are at the top of the organization. Leaders are everywhere, and everyone, all of our 1,500 great guests who are tuning in today, every single one of them can be a leader if they choose to be. It's entirely their choice. No one can make you a leader. It's your choice. And we're seeing leadership emerging from everywhere at the moment. And especially as we're not in the office, we're in other places, we're seeing local leadership. We're seeing NHS leadership. We're seeing firms who are collaborating in the space they've never collaborated before. This is exciting, and it's the extraordinary leadership we need for extraordinary times. And I've got a number of examples that I've seen everywhere. I think I shared with you earlier, Edie, when we were chatting just before coming on, that I was away over the Christmas period. I came back first thing in January, and where I live in northwest London, we're in a strange sort of constituency, voting constituency, which is Hampstead and Kilburn. And I was stunned and shocked and disappointed on returning that we had these horrific anti-Semitic messages daubed over local synagogues, local shops, the ugly Stars of David put in the worst representation you could imagine. I'd never expected something like that where I live in St John's Wood, Swiss Cottage, Hampstead, Belsize Park. We just don't expect anything like that. But something amazing came out of it. One of my neighbours is a local rabbi who had not been here that long. And we got talking, we were outraged by it, and then our local MP, Tulip Sadiq, decided to call a meeting for local residents to come together and see what we would do about this. Tulip is a little pocket rocket. Odd to get such a huge landslide victory at the last election. She's our Bengali Labour MP, and she's small but powerful. I went up to where the meeting was in one of our local community halls, where I've only been there as a polling station, and they only ever get 2 or 3 people at the local Labour meetings. There was over 300 people there. Every kith, every kin, every race. It was beyond faith. All of us were there, and all of us outraged. And I saw a new sort of leadership, a new sort of collaboration, something new for the times we're in today. And we didn't need to say too much. She said it all. She captured everything for all of us. It was an outrage. And we came in as strangers. We left as friends. We left as a community. We will see more and more of that through these troubled times. Everyone can be a leader if they choose to be.
That's fascinating, Rene. I wonder if now's the moment to launch the polling question you wanted to. Do you want to do it now or in a minute?
No, well, let's get going. Let's go. So you know, there's that great Maya Angelou saying that not everyone remembers everything that you said, but everyone remembers how you made them feel. And to me, that's a great definition of leadership. Here in the UK, our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, unfortunately, tragically, caught coronavirus. It took him away. He'd been away for roughly 2 weeks, been away from the action, and the cabinet ministers had to step up. Now, I just wonder, how did we all feel that the cabinet ministers actually performed? Did they feel as empowered? How did they actually behave? So we've given you the question here in three multiple choice answers. Number one, A, were they strong and stable? B, were they saying the right things but not quite providing the confidence and strength necessary? Or C, they didn't feel or act as though they were fully empowered? A, B, or C?
We'll get that answer back to you in a minute. Do you want to launch the other two questions now?
Why don't we get them out of the way now? So
all right, get them out of the way.
We believe that leaders today, you've got to provide clarity, you've got to provide certainty, and you've got to provide hope, no matter how uncertain the surroundings are, no matter how difficult things are. Has any of us here in the UK and abroad noticed the difference in our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, since he's returned from hospital, since he came out of intensive care? Have you seen anything different? So I'll give you three multiple choice again. A, he was honest, empathetic, and human, and he went up as a leader in my estimation. Or he was still in a bit of shock and not in any position to get back into the fray. Or C, I didn't notice any difference. So A, he was honest, empathetic, and human, went up in my estimation. Or B, he was still in a bit of shock and not ready to get back into the fray. Or C, I didn't really notice any difference. And the final one, to take it away from the UK a bit, let's talk a little bit about France. In a crisis, leaders need to take full ownership, and it's no place for the blame game. Something strange happened in France recently. President Emmanuel Macron of France, who can be seen as a little arrogant, and some would say he may have the habit of talking down to his people, he did something really strange and really brave. He owned up to the fact that France wasn't absolutely properly prepared for this crisis. And it shocked a lot of people that he took ownership. He didn't blame anyone else. He just said that he and his government weren't as prepared as they could be. So three multiple choice answers for you. A, does it make him look more human and more trustworthy that he owned up? Or B, he's always been patronizing and this doesn't change anything at all? Or C, it's a good start, but it needs more than words. It needs now some consistent change to his behavior. So A, does it make him more human and more trustworthy? B, he's always been patronizing, doesn't change anything? Or C, it's a really good start. Three questions for you.
All right, we've asked those to the audience and we'll get back to you with the answers. So Rene, I wonder if I could ask you, we heard from Rahaf earlier about how important it was to step away from the devices. And I wonder what your thoughts are now on whether you agree. How is work balance, work-life balance going to change as a result of this for leaders?
I think lots of things have started to change already. And, you know, I saw that wonderful picture taken in northern India where they can see the Himalayas at long last because the emissions have disappeared. Here I live near central London, there are no cars on the road. People aren't driving. I wonder whether that's going to stick with us. And I've also seen now that people working from home, will they go to the offices anymore? Now we're connected to over 1,500 people here with great connectivity. How will this change the world in the future? You know, I was invited to give a talk at London Business School towards the end of last year. It was at the Careers Fair where the best of the MBA class of 2019 were out looking for jobs, and the good and the great were out there poaching for them. From British Airways to Credit Suisse to Marks and Spencer's, everyone's out there trying to get the best of the class of 2019. So I came on, gave my talk, it seemed to go down quite well. And as I'm leaving, a young lady tapped me on the back of the shoulder. She said, could you deliver that same talk to our school? I said, of course I can deliver that talk to your school. She said, next Monday. Didn't seem I had a choice. Drove up there on the Monday, thinking I'd be talking to maybe the sixth formers. It was the Ainsley Wood Primary School. And When I was invited in, I was speaking to 65 and 6-year-olds. Now, I can't tell you how tough it is to speak to a bunch of 5 and 6-year-olds. The toughest audience ever, because they're not afraid to ask you the toughest questions in the world. I had 10 minutes. So I had to rechange everyone. I spoke to these 60 kids for 10 minutes. They were fantastic. You could have heard a feather drop. They listened to everything. I talked to them about careers, about dreams. When I finished, they filed out in groups of 3 and went out into their assembly hall where there was about 8 tables with people, mainly in uniform, ambulancesmen, firemen, people from the NHS, talking about careers. It was wonderful. And as I was leaving, the head teacher said to me, "You're never too young to have a dream. You've helped them think about a career and make them stick to education for God knows how many years. Thank you very much." We shouldn't underestimate who can be a leader and when leadership starts.
So Rene, we have those poll results which we flashed on the screen while you were talking. I wonder if we want to bring them up just one more time and get your reactions on whether or not they are surprising. I don't have them in front of me. We're going to have to bring them up there. I don't know if you can see them there. Boris was just over 50% honest, empathetic, and human. Didn't notice any difference.
I have to say I agreed. I thought I saw a different man there, bringing lots of hope for the future.
And very interesting how much he was in praising the NHS and took very good care to praise folks who were not British from the NHS.
Walking in the shoes of the real people in the front line, there's nothing like a bit of adversity for all of us to keep it real.
Okay, and the next polling question there.
A bit harsher here, but again, I agree. I think that we started to see something very different from him. As we always say, the adversity is the greatest teacher in the world. And out of this, the tough times we're going through, I think what will emerge is some much stronger leaders at all levels. So again, I agree with that. Final one.
And then the final question about Macron.
Ooh, doing a Boris there. People are enjoying the fact that he took ownership and he was a little less arrogant. There's a lesson for all of us there.
So I wonder, how do we maintain hope and what will happen to growth after COVID-19?
So two things, 2 messages for us to take away. I think don't worry and focus so much on the interim, how we're going to get there. We're going to muddle our way through. Focus on the exit. Are you going to be ready for the exit when we get there? That's where your focus should be. But I would say the second thing, and probably much more importantly, if you're not sure what to do, if you're a little bit lost, there's one simple thing we can all do. Find someone to care for. Just take the time, take a moment, find someone local that needs a little moment of your care. Then you've done everything that we all could do. If we all did that, we'd be in a much better place.
So really fascinating to hear you say that after we heard from Timon about this caring economy, the nurse economy, and how important the key workers have been in terms of bringing us all through this crisis.
So to everyone, stay strong, stay safe, look out for each other, look after each other. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Rene. So